welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. My name is Glenn Turansky. I'm a member of the advisory board here at One Business World, the host of Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest in industry developments. Our goal is to provide the global business and entrepreneurial communities with a window into the minds of those who are shaping the future of the world. Today, we're very pleased to welcome Xavier Michon. Xavier is the Deputy Executive Secretary of the United Nations Capital Development Fund. The UN Capital Development Fund makes public and private finance work for the poor in the world's 46 least developed countries. The UN Capital Development Fund offers the last mile for finance models that unlock public and private resources, especially at the domestic level, to reduce poverty and support local economic development. As part of his duties, Xavier plays a critical role to support the Executive Secretary in providing leadership and shaping the strategic vision and direction of the organization. He provides direct oversight to the development of the program of work and plays an active role in the implementation of the UN Capital Development Fund's capital development mandate, as well as the management of the organization. Xavier has had a long career at the United Nations Development Program, previously serving in Burundi and Guatemala as the country director, in Peru as deputy resident representative, and in the New York headquarters with the regional bureaus for Latin America and the Caribbean, and Europe, and the Commonwealth of Independent States as program advisor. Prior to joining the UN, Xavier served as project manager officer in the Africa and Environmental Programs Division at the United Nations Office for Project Services. Xavier's worked at a financial derivatives broker at Crédit Lyonnais in Spain and as officer in charge of the French-Dominican Chamber of Commerce, promoting business opportunities and investment in the Dominican Republic. Xavier, it's a pleasure to have you with us this morning, an honor to meet you. We look forward to your talk. Welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. And just maybe as an opening, maybe you could explain a little bit more for us and our audience about the United Nations Capital Development Fund.
So, good morning, Glenn. Thank you for having me. Also, it's a great pleasure to be able to interact with the audience. I will try to share with you a little bit about our realities. So again, I work for the UN Capital Development Fund. We are an autonomous agency of the UN with a specific mandate to, let's say, leverage capital and financial instruments for the sake of development. So that's one element. We provide loans and guarantees, which is something unique within the UN system, in addition to grants and technical assistance. But one thing that I would like to highlight is that basically we work with the least developed countries. So in terms that are familiar to the audience, we work in frontier and pre-frontier markets. And this is where capital today is a little bit shy, where capital has other options to go. And we're trying to entice it to basically to lend into those markets where we do believe there are opportunities. And these opportunities are not only in terms of the viability of the investment, but in terms of the impact that basically that investment can have in terms of generating, of course, income for the company, but also generating jobs, including women and so on, in terms of the role of those companies. So this is something that is very specific, unique, and our role is really to play a catalytic role, knowing that there are very many entities that today are in those famous missing middle space, that basically they're either too large for microfinance, but too small for commercial capital, and basically they need that extra push, that extra financing and technical assistance to get it closer, let's say, from the concessional capital to the commercial capital. And that's where we play that role, that we bring those entrepreneurs, mostly SMEs, in their journey in terms of growth. And basically what we're trying to do is support them, let's say, at the seeding, at the early stage. And that's where you see, for example, fintechs, agritechs, all those expressions that today are coming out and extremely interesting and viable in terms of projects. But they need, let's say, certain support from let's say, donations that we provide at the early stages, and then we support them via concessional financing, via debt in concessional terms. We'll give it in local currency with technical assistance. We're also trying to entice other actors, in particular local banks, to basically to cover their risk if they also engage with them by giving them guarantees so that they can also deploy loans and also join that investment. So we believe that that journey, that investment, let's say, path that leads to commercial capital is important, and that there are actors that today, there are not that many, by the way, in those markets and in that specific segment, because what we see is that there are actors that trying to, let's say, pick up investment that are more, let's say, safer in nature, a little bit more mature, less risky. And so we see, you know, when you look at the African continent, for example, where most of the least developed countries, I would say 2/3 of the least developed countries are, there's more, let's say, prioritization of those investments, such as infrastructure, such of energy, and of course, you don't see SMEs that, you know, have been supported. And so we're trying to work on that space, and we do believe that there is a narrative that's important in terms of the investability, but also there's a narrative in terms of development. And if you look at SMEs, for example, in Africa, I would say it's about 1/3 of the GDP of Africa. It's about 50% of employment generated. I think this is where also where the innovation is coming. All the techs that, you know, we engage with, it's normally young people that starting, you know, like everyone with an idea, and they need some kind of support. It's also these are entities that diversify in the African economy, and I think this is where you have to put an extra push. So we are, I think, filling a gap and trying to be complementary to the actors that, you know, are coming at a later stage with commercial capital. So one of the things maybe I'd like to highlight is that through that journey of bringing those viable and impactful entities and unveiling those markets, I think we have moved closer to connecting to commercial capital. And today we have set up two investment funds with 2 third-party managers. And I think that's basically when those entities are ready to go to the next step, we connect them with 2 funds. We have an SME fund that we have set up together with Bamboo Capital Partners. So it's an impact investment based in Switzerland, very, very well established. And we have also established a fund with Meridian, another fund manager specialized in municipal finance. Actually, they have also a participation in LaGuardia Airport, just to show, you know, how large they are. And basically what we do is basically our pipeline, at least some of our pipeline is connected to their portfolio. And we help also in terms of bringing from our, let's say, partner governments, a first loss trench to making that investment enticing, because these are companies that still, you know, are in between, I would say, more in the semi-commercial space. So going back, and I'll stop there, maybe you can guide me. We do 3 things, if I can say so. One is we work at the transactional level, and it's basically what I would call project preparation. We take those investments, we take them to the next level, we connect it with other forms of capital, we take them through that journey in their growth. And I think that has an element of showcasing that there are investments that are viable, that there is a market that is interesting, and also that has an element of enticing other actors. So this is used also as a catalytical, as a way to motivate other forms of investors that, you know, there are opportunities. The other day, for example, I was in a conference, and basically the conference started about the challenges in investing in those markets. And I said, we have to change the narrative. We have to talk about opportunities. I understand, you know, opportunities have to be picked up, and it's not across the board, but I think the narrative has to change. And these are markets that when you look at them, you look at Africa, you know, just the population growth, all I would say a youth that is extremely dynamic, middle class that is booming. I'm not even talking about, you know, the mineral resources, the land, they have it all. And, you know, this is a place that today actors that are planting their seeds, that are a little bit more patient, that they have also to think that, you know, this is a continent with more than 50 countries where you have to lend in every country, and every country has its way of operating. Those actors that are visionary, I think they will do extremely well. So we have to move away from that logic of immediate reward in terms of revenue that can be generated, but also in a way of, let's say, anticipating the trends. And the trend is that, you know, this is a continent that there's no doubt has will play more and more an important role in the global economy. So this is the let's say the ecosystem of actors we're talking to, and we see lots of multinationals that today are stepping ahead and are moving ahead compared to other actors. And I think as a public good, like we are at the UN, our role is to entice others. So that's the project preparation, demonstrative effect. We also work at the enabling environment, if I can call it like this, which is also anything related to policy making, helping the legal environment to adapt, scan basically the markets, try to see, you know, what are the gaps, what are the triggers that can be, let's say, supported let's say to support that ecosystem and to generate awareness in the governments that we partner with, so that they can basically guide that development. And I think that's an important element. And finally, it's all the elements of facilitation in terms of exactly enticing those investors that today are thinking, maybe I have other markets. They don't really know those markets, starting with the geographies. I think it's starting to give them some elements so that they can start discovering those markets. And I think that is related to the fact that we are present in those markets. We have about 300 people. Actually, since I joined about 5 years ago, we were 150. Now we're 300. And I think because of, well, hopefully we're doing a good job, but also there is a momentum where we see that, you know, frontier markets are getting more and more interest. There is, let's say, a greater connection between private sector and the public sector. We're talking about blending, let's say, our respective efforts, capitals, investment tools, and so on. And I think that leads to certain dynamics where we start holding hands and working together into those markets. So this is something that we see growing, where there's more and more, let's say, collaboration, and the future, in my opinion, is positive along those ways. So along those lines, maybe I'll cite another example. What we're doing also is we have done last year a survey on the SMEs during COVID times. And I think, you know, that was last summer. I think, you know, you and I, we're trying to understand what was happening with COVID in our respective realities. But we wanted to know how the SMEs in least developed countries were trying to cope and adapt with this new reality, and what was the thinking if this crisis will perdure or not. But one of the messages we got, putting aside that we got, I think, about 2,100 responses, that was a quick survey, so we were surprised by the number of respondents. But we saw that many of the actors that we interviewed, they told us, we see today the virtual, so the web, as a space of opportunity. So it's not only connecting with our clients via, let's say, more traditional means, but whomever we talk to, and that could be, I've talked, for example, to young entrepreneurs in Mali, to more established company in DRC. They were saying, you know, the web is a space where we need to be present. It's about visibility, it's about clients, it's about financing that can come. It's a genre and a space of opportunity. And that was something that, let's say, corroborated a little bit of our thinking in terms of the project that I would like to discuss. And the idea came because of that and other, let's say, elements that we discussed. And we thought, why don't we do a Tinder of investors and entrepreneurs? That's as simple as that. So we are in that process. Just to highlight that this is nothing new. There are other expressions, very similar. This one is slightly different, and I'll tell you why. And they are mostly commercial. So we thought, let's do something of that nature, that we're basically providers of capital that today we know that they don't have a footprint in those markets. There are very few intermediaries in those markets. Local capacities are what they are. And we know that also origination is by nature something highly transactional. It requires a lot of work. So, you know, and in those markets where information is an issue, of course, you know, you need to try to entice those investors to lend into those spaces. And on the other hand, we have also entrepreneurs that they have a fantastic project, but somehow they don't know how to connect with investors. And like someone told me one day, and I love the expression, he told me, they don't know how to dress to the party. And I thought that was a fantastic expression. So we thought, let's try to narrow that gap. And we thought, let's use the technology. So let's use the web for that, and let's create a team. So a couple of elements, and I'll stop there, is what we're trying to do is bring those two groups together. On one side, you have entrepreneurs. We believe that because the UN is the recipient of the information, it generates trust. We don't use the data for commercial purposes, and that's a way to motivate the actors to share certain information that is more, let's say, private in nature, because there's an element that some information that we ask can be used by competitors. That's one element. Two, we are building an alliance of like-minded institutions. Today, the project is about to be launched. We're doing a pilot actually in a month and a half from now. But we have already 17 institutions that are, and more are coming in, that are joining this consortium. So it's multinationals, it's companies, actually a couple operating here in the States. There are public organizations, there are a couple of development banks, private banks also Africans, employee associations. So it's a group that is extremely diverse. The idea is that we are recognizing that no entity, despite the size of that entity, can do it alone. So we thought let's bring that group. We'll grow it, and let's launch this platform. So that platform basically enables SMEs that want to be visible to generate a profile. They answer a questionnaire that today has 151 questions. But the beauty of that is that the answers are pre-populated. So that allows us basically to simplify the process. Actually, we have tested that with small, it's more on the small side, but SMEs in West Africa, and they all did it. And basically, they responded. We wanted to see what was the user experience, and it went well. And so that allows us to generate data that generates a profile, but generates also sufficient data that we can analyze using an algorithm. So we have an algorithm that is proprietary and that we have developed in-house, and basically we come out with a qualification of the company. So what we have seen is spaces whereby, entities, other spaces, commercial spaces, where you put your name, you say what you do, what you did, and so on. And basically you have an analyst on the back that basically is calling you, asking you for information, for financial statement, and so on. And of course, that's the proper way to do it. What we thought is, let's do scale, let's use, when an algorithm is not really artificial intelligence, because there's no learning from it. We treat that information to scale, and let's generate a profile that is qualified, that it's a good way for an investor to have an initial assessment of that company that can be used then for a bilateral engagement, and that can lead hopefully to a formal due diligence, and then hopefully some kind of investment or commercial relationship. So this is one of the features that I think is unique. But the other feature is that in every country where we operate, we do that with the SME authority. That could be a Ministry of Commerce, it can be an investment promotion agency, or a dedicated SME authority. And I think that not only generates, I would say, ownership, which is for me a requirement, and it's a question of principle. We don't lend into a country without asking and inviting ourselves, but also it's a perfect way to reach out to that ecosystem of SMEs, legitimizing the exercise. But also, since the data that is provided by the SMEs is self-populated, knowing that basically your authority is also associated, generates, I would say, hopefully will lead to, it would be an incentive for greater discipline in terms of providing the right information. So I think that's something that so far is generating a lot of interest. We have, by the way, a large media covering the African continent that is telling us, once you launch that, you'll give you all the coverage, because we haven't done so. But these are the kinds of initiatives that we do. We are present on the market, we connect with the ecosystem, we understand the political economy to a certain extent, and we can basically and bring, let's say, some kind of intelligence from those markets, spot certain activities that we are supporting, and trying to entice capital to lend into those countries. And I think that's a win-win equation for whomever is interested into those markets. So I believe that there's much more that can be done, but I sense that today there is a connection with the clients per se. Clients today of banks, of investment firms, asking for, and we had a CEO of a very well known in Wall Street that told us, my clients are asking for impact. They want impact. So whether or not I believe on that, and I'm sure that the CEO believes in it, it's that it is a business priority for him. And basically they want also not only impact in the American economy and translate having an impact dimension to the investment, but also having an exposure to other economies. So I do believe that today there is momentum, there is an opportunity. And so we're trying to, of course, to service and try to showcase those markets in a positive manner. So that's a quick introduction, maybe longer than what I thought, but hopefully it'll give you a quick snapshot to your audience about what we do and what we try to achieve through our different actions.
On the survey you did, and again, as you said, the UN kind of brings a certain element of trust, so people feel safe in participating in it. And you said it was 150 questionnaire, which is a lot, right? And your participation levels were quite good, you said, right?
So sorry, the survey was 40 questions.
40 questions, okay.
Questionnaires for this matchmaking platform that we're building. So we did that in the spur of the moment. COVID, I wouldn't say improvise, but we did in the spur of the moment. We did a very short campaign, and to our surprise, we got 2,500 answers, and from all the least developed countries, so the 36 least developed countries, of course, with different levels of participation, but we got them all. And first of all, that was the first surprise, a positive surprise that we're all there. And of course, we wanted to know how they were adapting, if they thought that the crisis would last, if they were starting seeking financing in different forms, and how, what measures they were taking to adjust to this reality. At that time, the crisis was unfolding, so I think it wasn't sinking in their minds, and they were not taking the structural measure in terms of cost reductions, seeking, financing elsewhere, subsidies and so on. So there were minor adaptations in terms to cope with this reality, which they thought was just temporary. But again, I'm coming back to one of the lessons learned. Everybody said, internet is input opportunity. We have to be there, and that made us think, let's do something about that. So that led to this platform that we're about to launch, and that hopefully will be one of the many answers. There are other answers, by the way, and other expressions. But we thought let's do our, let's contribute from our own side. And the intention is to bring that as a public good. And the consortium today has 16 entities. We're 17 with us. We have 5 more who want to join. And the idea is that we will expand it to as many public and private entities that want to join. And the premise is that they want to contribute with their, I would say, their sweat equity. And then by sweat equity, I'm saying, brand name association, their little bit of the knowledge, if they want, provide pro bono time to those companies, give us a little bit, give to the platform some of their reports that we can put. And the last thing is tap into the networks, of course, to reach out and expand basically the coverage. That's what we do as UN. We bring actors together to establish synergies, to establish coalitions. We even go in the other side. When I was working in NAM, since I worked, you said it, I worked initially in the investment industry. That's what I thought I would do, but life takes you through, it's a journey and it's an adventure. I ended up in the UN, and I'm very happy about the outcome. But I came back to an institution that is marrying development and investment. So that was a perfect coincidence for me. And so I'm very happy about that. And so in my past, the UN also bring, the leading, let's say, coalition or the leading party and political position talking to each other. We bring actors that today don't talk to each other. And that's basically what we're trying to do. In this case, I'm more in the, of course, in the let's say on the economic growth involvement. So I'm bringing more private actors, but I think that's what we can do. And hopefully we'll bring many more participants, and I'm sure we will do so. and we count on also a participation of, if we got 2,500 companies responding to a simple survey that doesn't give anything, whereas in this website, we give a profile, a qualification. We also generate other products that they can pitch. They have access to knowledge. They have access to investors. I'm fairly confident that we'll have a number that will be much higher than what we got a year ago.
It's fascinating. Again, you're empowering. You're empowering the companies here. You get them to to pre-qualify here, put their information in, and really it's creating, in a way, it's a digital calling card, right? It's kind of coming back and saying, okay, here's what we're all about. And as you said earlier, on the investment front, it takes one, and then they quickly come and follow, right? They look for successful places. They're looking for that next place to maximize return. And if in these frontier and pre-frontier markets, that's the place to end up. As you connect with people, and it really sounds like that you're almost like a hub here at the UN, right? You're kind of like that from the inside of the hub, all these concentric circles kind of push out from your capital fund, and you're touching and helping so many people as well as the countries themselves, and the local pieces there. I thought it was interesting. One of you said on your investment funds, one of the partners is investing in LaGuardia Airport. I thought, as a New Yorker, that's pretty on the municipal finance side, which is an interesting angle too, when you think about different types of investment vehicles and things. So I thought that's a nice local touch here as we go. How about now? You said your group itself, you went over the 5 years from 150 to say 300. The type of people you're working with, what kind of skill set are they bringing? Are they economists? Are they business people? What kind of backgrounds do your colleagues have?
First of all, I think there's a commitment towards the principles, the ideas, the values. I think these are people that want to have a global perspective, and I think that's something that is that we hear from many actors colleagues that we bring from the private sector. And so we have, let's say, two streams: a more technical stream that basically we provide technical assistance, we provide grants, and so there are specialized people according to the area of expertise that can go from anything related to digital payments to working with local governments. So these are technicians, and basically these are people, I would say, they're more on the seeding those investments, preparing those investments, and then basically when we take them to the next phase, which I would say it's a viable, and when I'm talking at least on the private sector side, let's say they move to the next stage, they have a revenue, they can now move to debt in very concessional terms. Then I have another team that basically is basically the one that is deploying those debt instruments. So who do I get? Lately, we have we have recruited people coming from large investment firms, those names that we hear. And basically, what they tell us is, we sense that today the impact is an important element in our path. So we have the investment side, we don't have the impact. Actually, I have a colleague who came with us 4 years. Now he moved that back. So they have a motivation to have a global perspective. They have that motivation to associate the impact side, but also the knowledge of those markets. And I think that's something that they do not have in their career for multiple reasons. So far we've been very successful to attract actually young, talented, motivated employees from Wall Street, from DFIs. I'm just recruiting someone who has a dual diploma and so the multiple, multicultural. Some people that are extremely international in their mindset. The last one that I recruited yesterday has a master from Beijing Normal University and a master from NYU, the Stern. So I would say that's the profile. Extremely international. They have a global perspective. They're highly talented and with an expertise, with this, let's say, specific expertise in structuring, in deploying certain instruments, and they want to join. I think what is today something that is gaining momentum, which is impact, which is emerging markets. And I think they see that they're missing something where they are. And so they come with us, and again, we receive them with open arms. If I could receive more, I would do it. But again, as you know, we have to finance that structure, and we keep on going, and we do it steadily and in a conservative manner. But I think the projection is that we'll hire more investor officers on the ground. And basically, the idea is to deploy them on the ground, because this is where the action is, and this is where the connections need to be made.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's an incredibly diverse and talented group of professionals you're surrounding yourself with, all doing good, which is outstanding. Part of what you said earlier too, I think is getting people to kind of change the mindset or change the conversation, right? Do it as an opportunity and not so much a challenge, right? And kind of take a look at the landscape in the given frontier market or given country, and come back and recognize that there's that ability to make a difference, change people's lives, change local areas' lives, and probably the country at large, as you put that type of investment back into the country and put it to such good work, right? As it plays out. Well, listen, Savant, you've been a wonderful guest here. Congratulations on all your success. You're doing some amazing work here at the UN in these frontier markets. It's social mission, social entrepreneurship is a wonderful aspect of this market. What you do, you're touching people's lives in these countries, and you're enabling them with technology and then resources on the ground, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. So congratulations on all your success. Thanks for being with us today. Okay, we look forward to you joining us perhaps in the future for maybe an update. And best of luck and continued success in all the good work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a pleasure, and looking forward. And before I stop, since you work at the New York Stock Exchange in your recent past, we have launched an ETF at the New York Stock Exchange. So imagine the UN at the New York Stock Exchange. It's like water and oil. They never mix, and we have an ETF that we can claim with another partner.
I will check on the symbol when we sign off. That's good for you. Well, you know what? That's what it's all about, right? Making people aware. Hey, if you want to participate, here's a way to do it. Look, here's a financial product that'll meet your investment objectives and do good at the same time, right? How about that? Good for you. Well, thanks for sharing that. I will. Jenny Dong is a friend of mine. She runs the structured product group there. So I will check in and ask. Let her know we've chatted today.
There is also a cliche about the UN. The UN is not they are. First of all, we're a very big organization and with multiple entities. But I think I think there are entities that are doing extremely well. And in our case, we think that we're doing better than others in research and development. From let's say from the idea to the implementation idea, we go fairly quickly. And actually, for that ETF, it took us 8 months from the first conversation to basically the day that we were, launching the ETF at the New York Stock Exchange. So there are, I would say, if I can use that term, entrepreneurial expressions at the UN. I think we're one of them. There are others, by the way. And, we're looking forward to connect. I think it all starts with an idea, a little bit of passion, and some risk taking, and we're willing to do so.
Well, you know what? It's a great cause. It's a great impact. And it's a great message. And the more people that hear it through forums like this, Leading Entrepreneurs of the World, or as you continue to speak to the financial community and project what's going on, it can only lead to more success. So best of luck. Thanks again for joining us today. Continued good wishes in the future. Take care of yourself.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.